Hello, everyone. I'm excited that I'm finally doing this. This has been on my shoulders for a while, and I'm glad that I'm finally offloading it. It's a series that has been in my spirit uh, for a while now, and I'm glad that I'm finally obeying the Holy Spirit and I'm doing this. This series is for every one of us, every believer, but especially for young pastors and young ministers and young believers who have been concerned about certain development, and let me say, unwholesome development in the church, especially in the church in Nigeria. The essence of this series is applicable to the global church because what God is doing in these last days is global. But it has this peculiar, application for us in Nigeria because I see the Reformation as God's answer and response to all the cries, including the cry for revival and the complaints that a lot of people uh, have been expressing over some of these unwholesome practices and development in the church. In recent years, it has been from one controversy to another. Over time, we've had controversies around the hyper grace gospel. That debate is still ongoing, it has not been fully resolved. In recent times as well, we've also been having controversies around the prosperity gospel. And the truth of the matter is that there is really nothing like prosperity gospel. We have only one gospel, and that is the gospel of Jesus Christ, the gospel of the kingdom. We've also been having sad development around allegations of immorality, even amongst pastors and believers alike. And we've had cases of divorce, and that seems to be growing right now in the church. And whether we like it or not, these developments are worrisome and they are concerning, and especially for young believers, especially for young believers. And it is important for us to have this conversation. I know it's a conversation that some pastors don't want us to have, but the truth of the matter is that we cannot continue to hide. We cannot continue to try to cover up and act as though everything is fine. It is important. And it is important, particularly, to provide perspective to help young people navigate this development. And so, like I said, I know that some of you have been concerned and some have been praying for revival that will reposition the church, especially in Nigeria. And I know there are some people who are wondering if God is still on the throne, given all of this negative development in the church. And others are asking, why is God silent about all of this? The message that I have for you, which is actually at the core of this series, is that God is not silent about this unpleasant development. And let me add that God is aware that there will be excesses with the charismatic and Pentecostal movement. And so all of the things that are happening today, especially within the charismatic and Pentecostal movement, is not surprising to God. And it should also not be surprising to anyone that is discerning. All right. And I believe that God's response to everything that is happening right now is the present reformation of the church. Some of you may not be aware of this, but there are some pastors, quite a number of our pastors are aware of the reformation. God initiated this current reformation in the late 1990s as a corrective and preventive intervention. And so we can say that for 2 decades now, God, through this reformation, has been transforming lives, building kingdom communities across the world. While some believers have been praying for revival, God has been reforming his church. The intervention that God is providing is not revival, but a reformation. And let me say this, there will be an episode where we're going to look at the difference between Reformation and revival, and we'll dive deep into the definition of Reformation. This very first episode is to introduce the series and to lay the background for the series. And so we need to understand that Reformation is initiated, always initiated by heaven, whenever there is a prolonged deviation from the core of our faith, and that is Christ. Reformation is also initiated when truth have been buried. This present Reformation was also initiated to address the excesses of previous moves of God. I'm going to be speaking more into this. And so terms such as hyper grace, prosperity gospel are actually excesses of previously restored truth. All right? They are excesses. Because like I said earlier on, there is really nothing like prosperity gospel. Hebrews chapter 9, verses 9 and 10 says, "It was symbolic for the present time in which both gifts and sacrifices are offered, which cannot make him who performed the service perfect in regard to the conscience, concerned only with foods and drinks, various washings, and fleshly ordinances imposed until the time of Reformation." And so there are certain things that God allowed and permitted until the time of Reformation. And right now, those things are no longer permitted. And that is why a lot of people are sensing on the inside of them that we have crossed a threshold. And because we have crossed this threshold, a lot of these excesses are now becoming apparent. And so you may be wondering why this Reformation is not popular, why what God is doing right now is not popular. It is not popular because it requires greater death to self. Some pastors who are aware of it will not embrace it or transition because it is really not what the populace want to hear. It is not what everybody wants to hear. From the late 1990s and early 2000s, God has been raising a remnant who have become dissatisfied with the old and are yearning for the new thing that God is doing. God said in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19, He said, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." And that's exactly what God is doing right now, because in the midst of the darkness of the world, in the midst of moral decadence, in the midst of all of this unpleasant and unwholesome development in the church, God is raising a peculiar people. He is raising a new breed. He's emphasizing kingdom lifestyle in the midst of the rottenness. And so we can say that indeed, that God is making a road in the wilderness and is causing rivers to flow in the desert. And so Reformation is God's response to all the questions that you have around the excesses and ungodly practices that we have in the church today, as well as even questions around the return of Jesus Christ, because it's one of the things a lot of people have been talking about. And because of all of the crazy things that are happening, even across the world, people are saying, "Christ, please just come already. Come already." And so within the context of the Reformation, God is clarifying all the things that we need to do and how we can facilitate the return of Jesus Christ. And He's also clarifying for us the kind of church that Jesus Christ is returning for. There will be an episode that will focus on this as we continue on this journey. And so I want to remind us that we are in the end of time. The bride church, that is the church that Christ is coming for, is being made ready for the return of Jesus Christ. And part of the readiness of the bride is the completion of all of God's purposes on earth and the fulfillment of all outstanding prophetic declarations. That is why Jesus Christ said we should occupy till He returns. Occupying till He returns does not mean we should be doing our own thing. We are to focus on what He is emphasizing per time, and we are to engage with what He would have us engage with part time. And so, if you are dissatisfied with your present spiritual state and are yearning for more of God, the present reformation of the church is for you. If you love God and if you hunger for more of Him, then the reformation is for you. By this, God has extended the invitation to you. I believe very strongly that invitation has been extended to the high and mighty, and a number of them rejected it. And so what God is doing right now is that He's going to the highways and the byways to call in those who don't look worthy or qualified to attend His banquet. And I believe that you are part of those God is now extending this invitation to. If you're watching this, take this as your own invitation. And if you stay to this point, that means this conversation resonates with you. I want to encourage you to like, share your thoughts in the comment section, and please share so we can reach many more people, because a lot of people need to know what God is doing in these last days. And also, do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification button so that when the next episode drops, you will be alerted. All right? There's so much to share. There's so much to unpack about what is happening in the church and what God is doing. And you don't want to be left out of what God is doing in these last days. God bless you, and I look forward to the second episode of the series. Bye-bye.